Today on the bench we have a big blue radio. Nah, it's not a big blue radio. Actually, hiding under that blue painter's tape is a absolutely mint condition, realistic TRC-457. I just wanted to show, I have not done anything at all to this radio yet. So you will see the faceplate eventually once I get done with it and get it on tape. This is just to protect it while I'm working on it so I don't do any damage to it, because it's, man, it's out of the box fresh. I mean, I usually don't show radios, you know, their condition before I work on them, but man, this one just, you know, was worth doing a before picture, because you just don't see radios this clean on the inside. I mean, it's like I went back in a time warp. So, I mean, just look at this thing. Mint, 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 mint. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than this. I mean, not a dust bunny to be seen in there. The circuit board, all the components still shiny, just like the day they left the factory. The chassis, I mean, the sheet metal, there's no flash rust. I mean, usually just handling a radio, the oils from your skin over the decades will, you know, start to leave tarnish marks all over the, the back sides and the bottom. It just looks like it just got pulled out of the box today. You know, it was made yesterday and I just removed it from the box today. It's that clean. Really, really nice. For those of you not familiar with these, they weren't made by Radio Shack. I know a lot of people, for some reason, think Radio Shack is junk. Yes, modern Radio Shack, definitely. But old Radio Shack, they didn't make their actually, they've never made their own electronics. They were, you know, like most radio companies, they just used somebody else's chassis and basically stuck their faceplate on it. Well, this radio is no exception. And it's very easy to see who made it, because you can see the name right there. It's a Uniden, and it's a UPD 858 PLL circuit. Get this ribbon cable up out of here. And I always, when I do these, I always apply some Keg deoxit shield to that ribbon cable connector there, so it doesn't oxidize up. But you can see the PLL chip down here. Also says Uniden. So, like I say, very obvious who made this radio. Also the crystal filter right there. Also, Uniden Corporation. So, but man, I mean, you just don't see radios like this. CB, shortwave radios, ham radios, it doesn't matter. It's really rare to get one in this nice a condition. Like I say, especially these chassis are just so prone to oxidation over the years from people touching them. And the underside is no different. It's just as nice. Clean. Now, granted, the bottom sides are almost always clean, but the big thing you'll usually find on these is a butcher job over here where the PLL chip is. You'll see cut traces and wires and, you know, from decades of golden screwdrivers hacking in and doing modifications, completely untouched, just like I say, like the day it left the factory. Really nice. I was saying about the sheet metal is just excellent condition. I mean, they really just don't get any nicer than this. So I thought it was worth showing what it looked like, so, you know, you could see I didn't do any magic hocus pocus, you know, in restoring this, because there's no restoration needed. The only thing this thing's getting is the electrolytic capacitors replaced, and a transceiver alignment, and that'll be it. And another thing that shows, you know, it hasn't been touched by any hack anywhere, all of the alignment points that are normally factory sealed with wax are still sealed with wax. So in your final circuit, you can see everything's still sealed. So, you know, here's your driver and final adjustments, and this is the one no one should ever touch unless they have a spectrum analyzer. It's your 54 megahertz trap circuit. But and then also the Vco Voltage Adjustment right here. You see that one's still sealed in wax. Now, most of your golden screwdrivers will never touch that one, but usually, you know, the first things they touch are, you know, along here, the RF transmit chain, they'll be turned, and then of course all your power levels be cranked up, and modulation limiter disabled, and yeah, Another good sign, no one has ever touched it. Absolutely none of the potentiometers are cranked to their maximum rotation. They're all mid-range somewhere. So, power levels, modulation pots, all of them are still, somewhere in mid-range. So just like the day it left the factory. Sweet. And from my point of view, it makes my life so much easier. I don't have to go in and trace down a bunch of butchered circuits and figure out what the hell somebody's done to it, because nobody's ever done anything to it. So let me get the work done on this, and once I get the cap job done and the transceiver alignment, we'll do some performance testing and see how good receive is on this thing, and you'll see what the faceplate looks like. Now, actually, if you watch the video probably previous to this one, or might be a few previous to this, depends when I get it posted. This is the one that the customer sent, the electrolytic capacitor kit that has the really cheap junk Chinese caps in it. So yeah, we won't be using those. We'll be using good quality electrolytic capacitors in this. So, but there you go, just a preview of the realistic TRC-457 in basically out-of-the-box new condition. Okay, so you can see I've got some of the blue painter's tape off now, so all of the electrolytic capacitors have been replaced. Otherwise, the radio is still 100% original. And I've rechecked the email the customer had sent me. The reason this looks like it is new old stock, it is. It is a brand new old stock radio. It has never been used. That's why it's in such mint condition. It is literally just out of the box. So, yeah, definitely not something you're going to find very often. So, being that it is a brand new old stock, like I say, the only thing that's been changed are the electrolytic capacitors. I have not done the transceiver alignment yet. Now, I did upgrade several of the electrolytic capacitors in this. So, power supply, that's been upgraded. Move the wire out of the way. You can see that's been upgraded to a 6800 microfarad, so that's more than 2 times bigger than what was in there. Actually most of the ones in the audio section and a couple other key electrolytic capacitors were upgraded as well. Now, there's one thing you should do on all of these, not just this radio. Any radio that uses this chassis, though, it is an extremely common failure point in these radios. So if you ever have one that all of a sudden does not transmit anymore, this electrolytic capacitor down here, now you'll notice it does not look like your normal, aluminum electrolytics, little metal cans. This is a tantalum capacitor. This has been replaced. This is a brand new capacitor. And I always recommend even something like this that's never been used, always, always, always replace at least this one tantalum capacitor. It is a known failure point in this radios. It goes dead short, will kill your transmit. They usually explode. Usually you'll only find about half of it because it's popped in half. But this is what you will find originally in there. This is the one that's normally in there. It's a 2.2 microfarad, 25 volt. So when you replace this, what you should stick in there is either a 35 or even a 50 volt, but a 35 is fine. It's just the 25 is just a little bit, it's just running a tad bit too close, I guess, to operating voltage. So always replace that little guy. One interesting note, this is the one that Chinese cap kit had come with that I did not use. It is missing at least one cap that I noticed, because I got to wondering, I was like, well, I wonder if it has the capacitors for down here on the switchboard, the one here for on the clock board. So if you look down here on the clock board, that one right there, you can see it's marked C503. It's a 220 microfarad cap. So if we look at this cap kit, notice it doesn't include that one. But interestingly, C402, which is the one that's down on the switchboard down there, it does include one for that one. So yeah, the cap kit's not even complete. And I'm not going through to check if it has, the rest of them in the radio, but that's, like I said, it was just one of those things I noticed that, thinking the clock when I changed them, I thought, well, just out of curiosity, and yep, it's not even in this kit. So yeah, not only are they cheap ass caps, but it's also not 100% complete for this radio. So what I want to do is, since this has never been touched by human hands other than the assembler and basically the customer boxing it up to send it to me, I wanted to see what its performance was untouched. So like I say, I have not aligned this radio at all. You can see, in the transmit section also, all the wax is still in place, so I haven't tinkered with anything. Frequency-wise, it's very close, but it's not dead nuts on. It is high about 100 and I think it's like 140 hertz. So that's very close though. AM, you wouldn't notice anything, in sideband that's actually very close for sideband, but it is off a little bit, and that'll be taken care of in the alignment when the synthesizer circuit's aligned. But I wanted to check receiver sensitivity to see what a stock radio, what the sensitivity is like if it's never been tinkered with. Now I understand, yes, some values, because this is an older radio, will have changed over the years, but just curiosity's sake, if you have one of these, it was brand new, stuck in a closet for 30 plus years, what is its sensitivity going to be like? So I have it hooked up to the communications test set, and we're going to be checking SYNAD. So we're going to be looking at this meter. I have it currently hooked up. The speaker is hooked up to it. So it's being fed right now a 0.20 microvolt, or let's see here, let's get the dBm. That's minus 121 dBm signal, being modulated 30% with a 1 kilohertz tone. So there's its sensitivity on sideband, and then on AM, to get to 12 dB SYNAD, right around there, 0.61, it's fluctuating, 0.62, yeah, 0.62 I'd say, so, and that is minus 111.2 dBm, so very respectable receive sensitivity, and that's before alignment, so I have no doubt in my mind this thing will be a stellar performer and receive once I get done with the transceiver alignment. Now since we have it hooked up, we might as well, just out of curiosity, since I know for a fact the 54 megahertz trap has never been adjusted because that's still sealed with factory wax, so I have the communications test set. The output here is padded by a 20 dB attenuator inside the communications test set. That comes out, and I have that coming over to the spectrum analyzer. And then that goes through. Better safe than sorry, guys. Don't want to blow up my spectrum analyzer, so I always put an additional, so there's another attenuator right here, another 20 dB attenuator, so you can see there's, up there it's marked 40 dB reference offset. So we'll key the microphone in AM and peak. So we can see we have a, let me turn my mic gain down. So we can see we have a negative 31 point, fluctuating 6, 7, somewhere around there, about a negative 30, almost 32 dBm, 54 megahertz signal. So has very good. Now I will try and adjust that and bring it down even farther. Because like I say, that's one of those adjustments you really don't have to adjust if you don't have to, and there's a prime example from the factory. 30 plus year old radio, has not been touched since it was, had its factory alignment done, and it can do, minus 31.5 at the least. That's the lowest I'm seeing, or the biggest signal I'm seeing, I should say. So, yeah, right around 31.5 to 32, somewhere in there. So, very, very good attenuation of the 54 megahertz. And then we can take a look at transmit 27 on frequency. And let's see, we'll set our span to 30 kilohertz. So that's 3 channels width. So, the center here will be the 10 kilohertz would be channel 19, and then actually that would be the skip channel in between 19 and 20 here, and then channel 18 below it. So there's AM. See what sideband carrier suppression looks like. So I have it in upper sideband. Not too bad, but not that great. It's even with the mic gain turned down, it's picking me up just a little bit. But negative 20, it's in the negative 22, negative 23 range. Flip the lower sideband. A little bit higher. Yep, it's a little bit higher. They're almost minus 10 dBm. So definitely the carrier needs to be suppressed a little bit more on sideband. And then let's do a little bit of modulation here. Here's lower sideband audio. And upper sideband. And AM audio 1, 2. So it doesn't look bad at all, but we can definitely bring performance up on it. So I just thought I'd do a couple beforehand measurements so you could see them. It's actually a good performer out of the box, untouched. So we'll do an alignment and see how much better we can get, especially the receive. Like I say, we'll see if we can get the 54 megahertz second harmonic down just a little bit more. I have no doubt we can get that down a little bit more. And the carrier definitely needs to be adjusted, suppression on sideband. But otherwise, I'd say that's a great working radio. I mean, even before alignment. So to return shortly for some measurements after alignment. Okay, so here is the realistic Navaho TRC-457, all back together now. It's had its electrolytic capacitors replaced and a transceiver alignment done. Other than that, it is a 100% all original radio. And it is new old stock. I think at the beginning of the video I may have said looked like it was new, hardly ever used, man, there's no dirt in it. Well, yeah, it is. I went back and checked the email from the customer, and yes, it is new old stock. So this is a brand new old radio. It has never been used. So yeah, very rare to find anything like this. So really, really nice radio. So now that the transceiver alignment's done, we're going to take a look and see what the reception sensitivity is like now. So if you remember, our previous measurements were AM was 0.62 microvolts on AM and 0.20 on sideband for a 12 dB synad, because that's what we want. 12 dB synad is considered a intelligible signal, so we want the lowest amount of input power to attain that 12 dB synad measurement. So we have it hooked up to the communications test set over there. It's being fed currently a 0.05 microvolt signal out of the generator, modulated 30%, 1 kilohertz tone, and turn the volume up. You can see we're right around 18 dB synad. So yep, it's hovering right flickering between 17 points, say 9, 18. And that is as low as the signal generator will go, 0.05 microvolts, which is minus 133 dBm. There's just no minus sign, but that is minus 133 dBm. So absolutely phenomenal reception. Just can't get any better than that. And we'll check AM now. Switch the radio over. So not quite as good, but to be expected. To turn it up here a little bit. It looks like right there, that's it. 0.07 microvolts for a 12, actually just slightly better, with 0.07 microvolts, or minus 130.1 dBm for a 12 dB synad measurement. So this radio basically, I guess you could say, is one of those radios that could receive a mouse fart at 1,000 yards. Just excellent reception. So, you know, this one should be a pleasure for the owner to use. Will be a really good receiving radio. Actually, I doubt there's much on. Just need to swing the camera out of the way. Turn that off. We'll hook it up to an antenna. Actually, see if there's anything on air. See if there's any skip actually coming in yet. It has been dead earlier today. Yeah, it's just starting to come in a little bit. Yeah, not much to speak of. Pretty much dead. Even the Super Bowl, nothing much coming in. But there you go. There's a completed TRC-457. So, nice mint condition radio that's still in original condition. No modifications whatsoever.